Good morning, everybody. This is Hemi Fever, ChallengerForumz. So, first, I just wanted to say thank you to a bunch of people. So, up there with the TR6060, we have the Centerforce clutch, which I acquired from Ramjets. Great people, great Dyad clutch, flywheel, and everything. Also, a bunch of parts. I want to thank Steve White Motors. So, I got my rear main seal, a bunch of different seals, level 5 axles, all that kind of good stuff. I want to say thanks to HPP and DSS. I picked up Driveshaft, all the BMR suspension. I want to say thanks to Frank and Glenn there. It's been a progress, but I just want to kind of give you guys a sneak peek, touch base on all the things we had to modify, do a little quick video. Just so everybody's aware, if you have a GetTrack rear end, the biggest difference you'll know is the GetTrack has a single pinion mount and the bushings actually in the cradle, where all the newer Hellcat diffs and everything have two bushings on each side of the pinion, and they mount the bushings into the differential. A little different. So a few things. So Driveshaft shop, working with them guys, we've had a few little issues. You know, they've got high performance bolts, and then they have a next step which they call the racing high performance bolts. I have those coming to me here real soon. I wasn't really happy with their bolts up here that they modified for clearance, so they've had people tell them that these don't clear the shifter up there, so they round the edges down on a lathe. There's plenty of room up there, but I recommended they do some 12-point ARP bolts or something to the CV boot up there, because the torque spec they give for those, it really tries to round the heads. They're just too weak after they machine them, and it won't hold up even with a brand new bit. So they do have stuff coming Thursday. I'll do the upgrade and take some pictures and send that. Also, another thing that we found, anybody's got paperwork on these drive shafts, it says the manual should have 5.5 inches in that area of gap between the CV when it's all installed. Turns out all their paperwork on the website and from them directly is incorrect. They've changed the snub size going into the CV, and 3.5 inches is perfect, and that's what we have. So I had them send me an updated documented sheet for this just to reference it, and everybody should be aware because they still don't have their website updated. And don't flip out when your drive shaft doesn't measure what the sheet says. Hopefully they'll get that fixed. So talking to HP and the other guys at BMR, very few people have done the billet solid mount cradle, but as well, let's get up here, the billet bushings for the differential. So I did a little custom deal. This kit they have is for a 15 and newer from BMR. They just came out with it. It's a nice kit. You can make this kit work, but unfortunately you only use half of it because the nice 4 billet bushings for the pinion you can't use. The 2 bushings that are different sizes in the rear work. First thing, one, I measured everything prior to removal and had to measure everything after. I did have to come up with a spacer on the driver's side rear bushing between the rear end and the bushing that BMR makes, but that worked out perfect. And you do have to make a spacer up here in the pinion, which I will touch base and show you guys that. So what I did is I ordered the BMR kit. I had to order the exact same bolt spec but fine thread. So the newer diffs take coarse metric. The older one, the GetTracks, they take fine thread. So Fastenal Indy has them in stock. I had to order those and put them in. That way you have plenty of engagement and you have the right thread. You can't use the OEM bolts in here. So we resealed differential. We got the additive, and we got some brand new Lucas synthetic gear oil in here. After putting the Centerforce clutch, rear main seal, all that good stuff, we got Lucas 040 up in the engine with a stabilizer, and I've got Lucas ATF synthetic, which the boys over at AMP Performance live by it, swear by it. It's good stuff. I run Lucas on everything. Shout out to Anthony back in California there. One of my old NHRA buddies, he's actually a rep for Lucas, so we keep in close contact. Anybody got questions on that, feel free to shoot me a message. We got the the whole training resealed, re-put together also. Let's move back to the install up here and some things that they don't tell you and a lot of people don't realize. So these are the Driveshaft Shop Level 5 axles. Thank you for the smoking deal on these and the support over at Steve White Motors in North Carolina. That's where I got them. There's a weight on these and these bad boys. If you guys need them, they got them in stock, just so you know. A few things. I was able to find tone rings, so if you search it on ChallengerForumz, you'll find my article and my link. I found brand new tone rings that everybody says you can't get for 30 bucks. Had them in 3 days. There's a website for where I ordered them from and the link. They're labeled as a 300C, I believe a 2008 tone ring, but it's the exact same tone ring. I did my diligence and research, measured, they installed, everything's perfect. One thing I noticed everybody does not realize, and I say if you're not very mechanical, I wouldn't recommend it, but a lot of people complain about lip seals going out. All the how-to videos and all the install stuff I see everybody, nobody talks about the guards for the lip seals. So put them in. These guards came off the OEM axles. These guards actually you can mount. You gotta when you pop them off, it loosens up the tightening from the backside. So when you put them on, I put a little bearing mount, and I used a really cool punch on the inside to re-adhere the tightening effect. And then tested with a rubber mallet, make sure they just don't move or come off, because of course you don't want these coming off and rattling in here. And I marked them just so I can keep an eye. That should save the seal on that. Now, for anybody that decides to do level 5 axles, one of the biggest things, and I'm hoping that the guys at Driveshaft Shop added to their install sheet is if you go to replace your wheel hubs, because some guys have to upgrade the hubs for the new ones, there's actually a washer you don't want to forget that goes between the shaft and the hub. I was able to find new ones on there. Thank you, Rock Auto. The Mopar dealer here locally didn't have them for a while. They weren't in stock. I couldn't wait. The other piece is if you put a brand new hub on, you guys can see these bolts. I don't know if you can see them or not, but these bolts in here, they're E14s down there. You cannot torque those and get to those. These CV shafts are way much bigger than the OEM ones. So you need to pull the spindle, torque your new hub in, and then put the assembly back up as you already have the shafts in here. To do it safely, I put between the cradle here and here. Of course, I did it out of the car, but I put a brace in there to hold the axle shaft up so it's not sagging on you and keep it centered. And then slid it all in and then bolted up the spindle. The biggest battle everybody talks about on these spindles is right here. There is so where this Allen bolt goes through the bottom of the spindle, which there's your Allen bolt, okay? There's a bushing in here, and they actually have a Mopar tool that pulls the bushing back once you get it apart, but you gotta clean this up and make sure you can get that bushing back a little bit, because you will spend hours trying to get this on if not. It literally went back together in 2 minutes. I cleaned it up, knocked the bushing back. I was able to slide everything back together. So that's what I got for that side. Now, as you guys are seeing all the chrome moly adapters, so the whole rear's got everything hammer tone from BMR, adjustable on-car suspension, all the way down even to the end links. Few things I found, so we'll start up here. So the arms, I set the OEM length. As you see right here, I haven't painted it yet because I wanted you guys to see it, and I talked to Frank at BMR. People that put these on have noticed, depending on how this lip is machined when it was manufactured, as you can see, I can fit my finger in there now. Wasn't able to do that earlier. You have to clean and modify this lid right here if you don't want any binding that you're going to be unaware of, because you won't notice it, but it'll start hitting when you're running and doing road coursing or drag racing, whichever you're doing, if you get any flex in your bars up here. So I modified that, as you guys can see. Now we got plenty of room, no issue there. The next part was grease location. So the trailing arm here, that one's perfect. It comes with a 90, 4 pumps, good to go. The upper control arm, okay, that one, let's see if we can see it. There you go. that one comes with a straight. You can't do a straight. So what I recommend before you install it, put a 90 here and aim it towards the front of the car a little bit. Now you can check your grease while it's in the car, because if not, you're never going to get to it. And same thing, I don't know if you see it up there on a tailing arm. So upper, that one had a straight on it. Of course, there's no way to get up in the chassis there and get that one. So I put a 90 angled there as well, and I have it facing towards the rear a little bit. So now you can actually grease your parts when you're checking all your heims and doing your inspection on a regular basis, which everybody does, right? Other than that, last modification I did on that same arm for the top here, this OEM body roll, right? It's a press deal, it's stamped. It is no clearance right here, so I couldn't even fit my fingers in here. You know that thing was gonna rub. Actually, it scratched my powder coat a little bit, which is unfortunate when we installed it. I modified, I didn't cut back behind into the meat, but I was able to take a good chunk off right there. So now that we have full travel, a lot of people probably won't even notice that, and they'll wonder why their car's binding up if it hits. And I think that's just a good note, and I shared that with Frank at BMR. So on that, everything's good. I'll do a little overview so you guys can see how it looks up here. And new shocks, Mopar, new springs, all the goodies. Got my tone ring sensors in check. Everything's greased, torqued up. I showed you guys, so we were talking about the BMR bushing, so let's go take a peek at that. As you see, there's one right there. One there. Now the two come, this one's longer, it's a longer bushing, and this one's shorter. And when you pre-mock everything up, this one measures perfect right up against when you set with all three bolts started and your pinion and everything, right? Because the pinion's got a dead center. Back here, as you see, I had to come up with a spacer. Now I didn't want to leave a gap or use a washer, because you want, on aluminum, you want to keep and make sure you have no area for fracture, and you're putting a load on this, so you want to make sure it's a flat surface against a flat surface. So came up with the perfect size shim spacer for this. Torqued up, everything went good. And then of course all new bolts. They always recommend these are torque stretch, so you always want to put a new bolt in. And then up here, as you see, I had to make a spacer as well to go in between. Now BMR does not make this bushing. This is actually a very nice aluminum threaded bushing from High Horse Performance. Thanks, Josh Schwartz. Got that in and all torqued up. So next piece I would have to recommend for everybody is, as you can tell, the spacing on this for that shield that goes here is very tight. I'm waiting. I have some ARP bolts coming to change out. I'm not a big fan of all these bolts that they sent with this Driveline, so I'm going to be taking it back out before it comes off the ground. Everything shows up Thursday. I'm going to change both the Allens down there in the CV and the ones here. And then I had to order, and just not any generic custom part, True Value Race hardware, automotive rivets, or snapping clips work in these fuel tanks. You have to get a specific clip, of course. And none of them want to come out. They break when you take them off. They don't like you taking that shield off. So I can get that heat shield back in here, or the protector back in here, because nobody wants a free open tank. But I'm kind of on the wary side. I mean, my wife's Dodge Ram is on 36s, and the tank on that thing doesn't have a shield, so we'll see what happens. Other than that, that's what I got for you guys at the moment. And I hope you guys all have a fabulous day and enjoyed the view of all the blood, sweat, tears, and effort that was gone into this. And also want to say thanks to HHP, Centerforce, and Driveshaft Shop, and Steve White Motors. And anyone doing a cradle, here's the secret. So I did it myself. If you want to get one of these jacks. They sell them at even Harbor Freight, I'll be honest with you. But I was able to tack weld some spacers on there once, so it sets from the drain plug to the front of the diff, keeps this thing balanced. I was able to move this whole thing in and out one piece. Anyways, have a safe day. Thanks.